say there's a huge sentimental attachment to the car. I think out of my great-great-grandfather's possessions and amongst the great cars that he owned, this is the last one left.
It's more than the arm workout you're talking about.
Yeah, full muscle workout. Straight up.
Straight up.
Reverse.
There you go.
There.
There you go.
Oh God. Okay, full muscle workout. For me today, no gym needed.
A 360-degree camera this car would have been useful.
Yeah. Oh. Yes, and we made it.
Very good. Well done.
Jolly good.
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of History on Wheels. Now, normally we take a modern day car and then go back in time and talk about the history of a car or its brand. But today we're doing things very, very different. We've got a really old car and I'm very excited about today's episode because the man and the car have a very rich heritage and legacy. Well, as the brand itself once said, ask the man who owns one. So we're asking the man who owns one. This is about a prince and his Packard. I'm very happy to introduce you today to Maharaj Kumar of Rajpipla, Ranajay Chand and his 110 Packard. Well, before we get chatting with the prince, I'm going to go back in time and tell you a little bit about the history of Packard, and it's an interesting one. Well, the Packard Car Company was started in the 1800s and it's a very interesting story. It was started by James Ward, his brother William Ward and their partner George Weiss. But the story really started when James Ward in 1898 went out and bought a Winton motor car. Now, he was never happy with this car after having bought it. And time and again, it went back to the workshop. So much so that the communication went right up to Mr. Winton himself. And they had it out over a year with the car going back and forth many times. So much so that finally a year later, Mr. Winton got fed up and told Mr. Ward, if you're so clever, why don't you go out and build a car yourself? In 1899, 30th of October, Mr. Ward had the first engine ready for production. Soon after, in November, the first Packard was ready. This was a single-cylinder car and the Packard Model A went on to become a huge success. Packard Car Company was not only known for its luxury and opulence, they were also known to be innovators. They were the first company to actually factory fit air conditions in cars in 1940s. They also invented the power windows as we know them today. And they had a lot of firsts during their tenure, and this is what kept them really, really popular. Of course, then came the Depression, and because of the Depression, people couldn't afford luxury cars. That's when Packard Motor Car Company decided they would make a mid-size car. It would offer luxury, but it would be more affordable. And in 1940, that's when the 110 came into being. It was built off the platform of the larger cars, but with a shorter wheelbase, and that's what the 110 is all about. It was the more affordable Packard. And post-war, Packard really couldn't keep up with the competition. And finally, in 1958, the last Packard rolled out of their Indiana plant. But Packard left a rich heritage and legacy, and that legacy still exists today, and people are still proud to own one. We're talking to a proud owner. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we're so happy to have, I think, one of the only really running 1940s Packards that exists in the country today.
We're not quite sure why my ancestor bought it, but we believe this was the first non-coach built car that he bought.
Yeah.
I think this was obviously a baby Packard in a sense. It was built on a shorter wheelbase. I think we can safely assume he bought it for the handling of the car at the time, because he had these large Rolls Royces, 13 in fact. Yeah.
Yeah, and Packards were still meant to be really luxury cars, even though they built a smaller version.
Exactly.
They meant it to be every bit the luxury. This is something that came about in 1925. The goddess of speed came onto the Packard at that point of time. How much have you driven this car?
Not that much, honestly, because the year it got restored was when I started my masters. My dad's been driving it a lot. He loves it.
Okay.
Marispan, the restorer, he drove it. He loved it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that sense, not much. But whenever I'm back in town, I do make it a point to take it out for a spin.
How difficult was it sourcing all these parts? And were you, while you were in your masters, were you being asked to source parts for this
Luckily
car?
not. Luckily not. Most of the restoration actually occurred during the pandemic.
Okay.
And the parts that he couldn't find, because obviously it's a defunct marquee now, he managed to make those himself at his workshop, and he was telling us about those, mostly the plastics actually.
Yeah, so it's going to be a pleasure to take a look around this beauty. I mean, you can see why these cars were so loved at that time and even today. And this is absolutely a beautifully, beautifully restored car. I have to hand it to you.
Thank you.
This is an excellent job. Fabulous air vents over here. That's where all the hot air escapes.
So this is a straight 6, 4 litre, produces 100 horsepower.
Yeah, and I
Straight.
think it was the first straight 6 that they produced after a very long gap.
Correct.
The straight 6 was made, and it's an absolute beauty. And I think your restorer Marispan told me that the engine was still in like really rocking and rolling condition when he got
Yeah.
the car, and that's where he had to do the least amount of work.
That's correct, that's correct. He also said that the car basically came in, it was in a very original state, so they didn't have to do a lot of guesswork as to what went where and stuff. It was just really like cleaning up and putting it back together.
Yeah, I know. The running board, I believe.
Yeah, that was one of his other headaches.
Yeah.
It was, took him a while to get that right, but yeah, overall I think he's done a fabulous job.
Yeah, so can we take a look inside?
Absolutely.
And I think, this is coming back into style. The modern day cars and all the concepts you see have doors that open up like this. So we're going back in time, not ahead. Access was just so easy, and that's why these cars were so luxurious, I think. This part, I believe, was the toughest to restore.
Yeah, and I think he had to recreate a lot of the wood bits, the plastics, as you can see on the door. I think these were some of the elements he had to make in his workshop.
And you have
The original plates.
yeah.
Obviously, we can't use them anymore, but this car was, so each princely state had the name of the state and then whatever number the car was. So this was Rajpipla number 45.
Amazing.
It was a red plate state, obviously. Now we've got regular number plates for it. So these are Whitehall tires, obviously. They were a common theme back in those days. It's a very jazz age car, I think, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, these were one of the elements they had to import along with the radio as well. So.
Yeah. Those were the two parts that you really had to get.
I
Was
think-
there anything else that you really struggled with?
I can't remember. He's still looking for the air conditioning, so that's a running theme at the moment.
Yeah. Just the lines, the shape, it's just so beautiful. And even the rear of the car, when you look at it, the twin rear windows so that you could get great rear visibility.
Absolutely.
And again, this really fabulous chrome work over here.
So this is a luggage rack even.
Yeah,
so
on the luggage rack.
If you'd like, I can open it up for
Yes,
you.
please. Let's do that.
Should be fine.
So, if you have extra luggage, that's where it goes.
This was also the touring edition, so it needed that.
Yeah, can you open up the boot as well? Is it locked? I think it's locked. Ah.
This at the moment just has a spare wheel.
And a spare. So, large amount of luggage space it had for the time. So I'm guessing people were, taking this and going out of town as well. And when you found it, when you decided to start restoring it, how bad was it?
I mean, it was intact. It was in one piece. Everything largely, I think, besides the clock and the air conditioning, they were there. So Marispan says it wasn't a complicated restoration. Obviously, it was in no usable condition at the time. I think all credit for that goes to my father. He really spearheaded the entire project. He really pushed to get the car out because we were completely distracted by the palace at the time. So this was obviously just one of the other I don't know, things we'd found inside the palace. So yeah, it was in bad condition. There was apparently a cobra living in the palace for in the car for 30 years, and I think that may have prevented further thefts of vandalism from the car because
so they got the clock, they got the air condition, and then the Cobra kept it safe.
Yeah, and then it made this car its home for, I don't know, 30 years, and
as long as there isn't one in it today, I think we're good.
To the best of my knowledge.
Brakes.
Yeah, they're not.
Steering. You gotta get used to everything again.
Absolutely. It's pretty interesting to see the design of these cars. They literally, people stop and they tell you how much they appreciate the car. It could be anyone, it could be a person.
I mean, you've got people staring at us now, you know. I think whenever these go by, they attract attention, and I think...
it's like public art in a way, right? It makes them happy, I think, even seeing it. They always smile.
Look at us, we're grinning still. Both car crazy people who've seen a lot of these, but they still bring back that emotion in you, don't they?
Absolutely.
Talk about proportions, you know, and bonnets and
dimensions.
I know we get into a car these days and say, oh, you know, I can't see about this and about that, but this takes a little getting used to and understanding.
Can't adjust your seat either, so
yeah,
you and I are the same.
Yeah, no seat belts.
No seat belts.
Which was what was a problem of these cars, you know, being really driving them out on today's roads.
Yeah.
It takes a little getting used to these cars again. Everything is so raw and natural.
Yep.
No power steering.
It's got a talky engine though, so that
yeah.
picks up.
And it's running smoothly.
Yeah.
The clutch release is high, the brakes. You still have to get used to driving this.
Yeah, that's one of the, I don't know, it's one of the, call it a headache if you want.
No, it's love, it's love. You know, it's just the feeling of, you really get the feeling of driving a car, don't you?
Yeah.
But you are a car crazy guy per se, right?
I am, yes. Although I do like cities in which I can get around by foot. I think I like cars in which you can do like maybe long distance trips, like grand tours, and I don't know, SUVs if you're going off road or something. Like there has to be an occasion. I think just like food. If you look at food and they may out of belly filling, that's not fun. But if like I don't know, like well made food, like the art of cuisine, that's a different thing. The same way with cars, I think.
Yeah.
There's a sense of occasion to driving it. Obviously, it doesn't. Obviously, it doesn't compare in its performance to a modern car. But it's like having an instant camera, you know.
Yeah.
Even if the picture quality may not be good, it just gives you joy, and I think that emotion. And if you're buying cars for fun, I think the joy of driving one of these is incomparable.
Absolutely, I've got this wide smile on my face. Every time I drive one of these, I really enjoy it. It's exactly what you said. These cars give you a sense of occasion so much more than the cars of today give you. You know, I mean, you can be sitting in a really fancy car, but somehow these still give you so much more of a sense.
Yeah, even if you look out of the dashboard. I mean, I send pictures of it when the restoration has happened. I send them some of my friends, and they don't need to be car people or even understand what the make was or anything. I mean, it just looks like you have a visceral reaction.
Yeah.
Just looking at the wood, looking at the goddess of speed out there.
Yeah.
There's a very entertaining story. So when Maris Khan was speaking to my grandfather about the restoration to understand what components he wanted to get it correct. My grandfather's biggest concern out of all the things was to get the horn.
Wow.
Because he said his father, my great-grandfather, once drove this car over here, and they used to have those Victoria, the coaching. And apparently, when he pressed the horn, the horse got so startled it like stood up on its hind limbs. This is a story he repeated a few times, and Maris father was like, in short, then the horn was like loud enough.
Yeah.
It's
Shall we test it? Oh yes, it is. And who loves this car the most?
I'm 100% sure it's my father more than this is his baby. So I do love it as well. But I have to say, I think the passion that he showed for this is unrivaled in the family at least. It was a full family team effort. Like, it was even the documentation had to be gotten back because it had been lying shut for so long. My uncle chipped in as well with that. My grandfather has memories of this car from, although it's older than him, but he has memories of this car. So a lot of when we were trying to get it correct, restoration, he was interviewed a lot for it.
Thank you for this drive. It was awesome. Should we
Let's check it out.
get into the back seat and behave like royalty, like true royalty? I just love this access. It's just so easy to get in.
That's why even my dog loves it. See
Yeah,
why.
I know now. I know why your dog loves this. And wow, it just feels so spacious, and I can just wave by. Just wave to all the. Love these little windows, and they're so nice because they're angled so that my hair won't fly, but I'll still get nice and cool.
Fanned enough.
Thoughtful touches.
Yeah, coupled with the ones in the front, there's a lot of circulation in the car as well. So
Yeah.
you can almost get away without
Considering you haven't found the AC yet, that's what we need.
necessary touch.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure having you. But let's step out for a minute. Before I let you go, I'm going to ask you some fun questions. Such pleasure to drive these cars that have that very tactile, physical feel over, modern day cars that sometimes tend to feel a little disconnected.
Exactly.
I'm sure that's what you love about this car as well.
True.
Yeah. But before we let you go, we're going to do a little bit of rapid fire
Let's do it.
and ask you a couple of questions. ICE cars or EVs?
Honestly, EVs have grown on me lately.
I think you're one of the first few people to say that.
Yeah.
Manual or automatic?
Manual, any day.
A car person, I see. What's your favorite driving song?
Honestly, just whatever's on Spotify lately. I'm pretty agnostic about it.
What kind of music do you like?
I think it depends, just like when you're running or walking, I think it depends on the car and the occasion. So I think if you're in this car, perhaps a bit of jazz.
So what's your favorite driving route?
Bombay to Rajpipla, there's this part called Nethrang, right when you approach Rajpipla from the back. It's over the hills. The road's actually fantastic. And if you have a great car, the twisty roads, I think they're a dream.
That's a route we're going to have to explore for
One day.
sure. What's your dream driving route? Something that you haven't done that you want to do?
I think I assume everyone wants to try the Autobahn once at least. So maybe that's what I'd like to try as well.
You drive a lot in America and
No, I live in New York, so I think it's the most car-friendly city in the world.
absolutely. Subway is the best in
Absolutely, or a good old cycle.
yeah. A few questions about Packard. We're
Yeah.
going to test your knowledge and see if you know. When did the company first build its car?
It's in 1905 or 1904.
In 1899 was
wow.
when the first Packard was born. Okay, and when did the Goddess of Speed come into being?
1925 was the first edition, I believe. And then 38 was the one that was patented.
Perfect. So, one point to you for that one. Thanks so much for being with
Thank
us
you.
on this show. It's really been a pleasure having you with us, and thank you so much for sharing this absolute beauty with us.
Thank you for having us.
And sometime we've got to come to Rajpipla and visit you there.
Absolutely.